There we go.
Now we're all quiet because we don't want to be recorded.
Nancy says she does, but you couldn't hear her. She talks so soft.
Oh,
Don't be sharp, don't be flat, be natural.
Well, thank you, Lynn. For announcements, today we have a monthly meeting at 10:35, so hope everyone can return for that. And then a reminder that on Easter Sunday, those of us who can attend in person will be joining with Fairfield meeting. I will send out the meeting times for that, and I'll also send out the Zoom link so we can all join via Zoom as well that Sunday. So it'd be something a little different for us. Are there any other announcements that we need to make?
This is Women's Group Week, 10 o'clock on Wednesday at Valley Mills. Hopefully Norma and Sue and the Valley Mills women can all meet that day.
What about joys and concerns to share this morning?
I read in Winchester's added to their message that they send out Saturday night. There's a nice report. No, it's a good complete report of all the damage around Winchester meeting. There are lots of houses demolished and fortunately nobody killed so far, but several people injured and hospitalized after those tornadoes hit Winchester. I don't know anything about any other areas of Indiana, do you?
Selma got 85% of the homes in Little Selma were damaged, but nobody was hurt. Nobody was killed there either. Then I checked with family in Ohio, since that was close to where my sisters live. Indian Lake's about half hour away, and they were all fine. But that so far, 3 people were killed in that. It's a kind of summer, it's not a it's a lake community, a lot like Dewart Lake and that, except a little bit more densely populated. So, and there's a number of the manufactured homes there, which I think don't withstand things quite as strong as perhaps they could. So it was, but our family was all okay. So grateful for that.
Might continue to pray for Rania at Ramallah Friends School. She was on, she gave a report to the Friends United Meeting Board, but you could just see how tired, how weary she is, functioning barely. Yeah, it's really tough on them.
Well, Sylvia and I and Dan and I were talking earlier. Wilmington College students just have returned from a trip to Belize to work at the Friends School, and another group just left Friday for the FCNL Spring Lobbying Weekend, which they do every year. So I might remember those young people who are actually learning to be community activists in a friendly manner, going out. They do this every year, spring and fall. So I think that's a very cool way to nurture young adult leadership in the, especially in the Society of Friends. I don't know that I could do that the way they do. So.
When you go to Fairfield, you'll notice that the Friends Committee on National Legislation is sponsoring an evening seminar on April 12th out there with dealing with some of the great issues of the day. And they have it posted on their bulletin board at Fairfield very nicely. We were out there for the calling for Dinah Geiger, who is a member of that meeting. I'm Dinah's husband, Dinah Geiger's husband. Yes, yesterday there was a big crowd. Phil Gully was there. I got to speak to him.
Well, let's remember the folks who have been affected by the tornadoes and bad weather. I know Winchester has been inundated with supplies. They showed on the news this morning, the field house at the high school is already full of clothes and food, etc. So there's been a lot of rallying around. But they still, of course, have lots of work ahead of them. So remember them and others in this world that are in need. As we go into silence, let's continue to lift those throughout our time of worship. And Chip is the worship leader today, so he will lead as he feels led.
Top of the morning to you. How goes the battle? How's she cuttin'? Those are common Irish greetings, and since today is St. Patrick's Day, and my message will be about St. Patrick, I thought I'd throw those in. I had such joy studying about St. Patrick, which I knew pretty much nothing about, and a lot of what I knew was not correct. The color associated with St. Patrick is blue. The shamrock is a weed. And the eating of the corned beef and cabbage is an American thing, and as they eat cabbage and potatoes in Ireland. But first, I would like to start with a reading from the Bible. Oh yes, and Lynn's hymns are both popular Catholic hymns. Irish hymns. But first, I'd like to start with the reading of the Bible. John 10, 1 through 5, and 14 through 16. Very truly, I tell you, Pharisees, anyone who does not enter the sheep pen by the gate, but climbs up by other ways, is a thief and a robber. The one who enters the gate is a shepherd of the sheep. The gatekeeper opens the gate for him, and the sheep listen to his voice. He calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. When he has brought out all his own, he goes ahead of them, and the sheep follow him because they know his voice. But they will never follow a stranger. In fact, they will run away from him because they do not recognize the stranger's voice. I am the good shepherd. I know my sheep, and my sheep know me. Just as the Father knows me, and I know the Father, I lay down my life for my sheep. I have other sheep that are not in my pen. I must bring them in also. They too will listen to my voice, and there shall be one flock and one shepherd. Now let me tell you a bit about St. Patrick. St. Patrick was a 5th century British Christian missionary and bishop in Ireland. Known as the Apostle of Ireland, he is the primary patron saint of Ireland. Now, Patrick was never formally canonized, having lived before the current laws of the Catholic Church in this matter. Nevertheless, he is a saint to the Catholic Church, the Lutheran Church, the Church of Ireland, and the Eastern Orthodox Church, where he is regarded as equal to the apostles and the enlightener of Ireland. The dates of Patrick's life cannot be fixed for certainty, but there is a general agreement that he was active as a missionary in Ireland during the 5th century. According to tradition dating from the early Mid-Ages, Patrick is credited for bringing Christianity to Ireland and converting the pagan society in the process. In Ireland, he established monasteries, schools, and 300 churches, and baptized over 100,000 people. Now, Patrick was born at the end of the Roman rule of Britain. His birthplace is not known with any certainty, but most people believe that he was born in England. Patrick's father was a senator and a tax collector, and his grandfather was a priest. However, Patrick says he was not an active believer in his youth and considered himself in a period of idle and lacking experience of life. According to Confessions of St. Patrick, at the age of 16, he was captured by a group of Irish pirates from his family's villa. They took him to Ireland, where he was enslaved and held captive for 6 years. While in captivity, he worked as a shepherd and strengthened his relationship to God. After 6 years of captivity, he heard a voice telling him that he would soon go home and that the ship was ready. Fleeing his master, he traveled to a port 200 miles away, where he found a ship and with great difficulty persuaded the captain to take him. After 3 days sailing, they landed in Britain, and apparently all left the ship, walking 28 days in the wilderness and becoming faint from hunger. Faint from hunger? If I'd have been out 28 days without any food, I'd be more than faint without eating. After Patrick prayed for food, they encountered a herd of wild boar. Since this was shortly after Patrick had urged them to put their faith in God, his prestige in the group was greatly increased. After various adventures, he returned home to his family, now in his early 20s. After returning home, Patrick studied Christianity. Patrick tells that he had a vision a few years later. I saw a man coming if he were from Ireland. He carried many letters and gave me one of them. I read the heading, The Voice of the Irish. As I began the letter, I imagined in that moment that I heard the voices of the very people who were near the woods beside the Western Sea, and they cried out as with one voice, "We appeal to you, holy servant, to come and walk with us." So after being a cleric, he returned to spread Christianity to Northern and Western Ireland. Patrick writes in Confession that the time he spent in captivity was critical to his spiritual development. He explains the Lord had mercy on his youth and ignorance and afforded him the opportunity to be forgiven of his sins and convert to Christianity. In later life, he served as a bishop, but little is known about where he worked. By the 17th century, he had already become a reverend as a patron saint of Ireland. Many legends grew up around him. For example, that he drove the snakes out of Ireland and that shamrock was used to explain the Trinity. Now, some doubt that the snake thing is true. They say that the water's too cold for snakes to migrate to Ireland. And I didn't realize that Ireland doesn't have any snakes. But when I was over at Brent and Nancy's the other day, Brent showed me a picture that he got off the internet, and it shows Patrick driving his car with the snakes in the back, and they're going, "I have to go to the bathroom. I feel car sick. Are we there yet?" Which reminds me of something that Abraham Lincoln said. If you see it on the internet, it has to be true. So I guess he really did take the snakes out of Ireland. Now here's a St. Patrick story you may not have heard. When St. Patrick decided to build a house in Ireland, he got together a lot of workmen to help, and he was looking for some beast to kill for the food for the workmen. There's a very bad pagan living nearby who had a crossed bull, and he gave the bull to St. Patrick, thinking that the bull would kill St. Patrick or anyone who came near him. St. Patrick sent one of his workmen to get the bull. The pagan was full of anger when he saw the bull walking quietly before the workmen. When the bull was killed and eaten, St. Patrick told his workmen to put the bones of the bull into the skin and put it up very carefully. Sometime later, the pagan came to St. Patrick and demanded he wanted the bull back. St. Patrick got the bones and the skin, and in touching them with his rod, he changed it into the bull again. St. Patrick told the pagan to take away the bull. The pagan had not gone far when the bull turned on him and gored him and killed him to death. And the bull lived happily ever after. St. Patrick's feast is observed on March 17th, the supposed date of his death, which I found kind of strange because we usually celebrate people's birthdays. It's celebrated in Ireland among those Irish descendants as a religious and a cultural holiday. St. Patrick's Day Parade. One of the earliest St. Patrick's celebrations in England took place in Boston in 1737, when a group of Irish Protestants gathered to honor their homeland saint. People first started to wear shamrocks on this day to show they were Christians, and later it turned into the wearing of the green. Today, many cities turn rivers, canals, and fountains green, And of course, there's a lot of drinking of the green beer, but only what Quakers would know about that. Just to kind of sum things up, I'd like to add, although he started out life as a shepherd of sheep, he became a shepherd of the people of Ireland. Well, that about wraps it up. So look after yourselves, have a good one, and may the road rise up to meet you. May the wind always be at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face, the rains fall softly upon your fields, and until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hand.
the thread that ties together St. Patrick and St. Gertrude and all the other saints, including Quaker ones, is their willingness to listen to God and then to follow God's leadings, which always then makes me wonder, well, how carefully do I listen to God, and how willing am I to follow what I hear God telling me to do?
Thank you, Chip and Lynn, for your offerings of ministry. We'll now continue with additional unprogrammed worship for those who can stay and for those who can't. God be with you today and throughout your week. Peace. Well, if friends' hearts are clear, I think we'll close worship. Hearing no objection. Then we'll sign off this part and monthly meeting will start about 15 minutes or so for those who can attend. And have a good week if we don't see you at monthly meeting.
Bye.
Bye. Take care.